What's up, everyone? This is your host, Jose Marquez, and I want to welcome you to the Sunday BYOB podcast on YouTube. BYOB means Bring Your Own Bible, and our goal is to make it come alive for you. We invite a wide range of guests to share their stories of triumph, joy, victory, and sorrow, and each episode is designed to talk about real issues with real people about a real God. We hope that you are curious, because if you are, you have tuned into the right place. Let's go. What's up, everybody? We hope that you're having a great day. We're about to have an amazing episode to continue our series on the Enneagram, something that has definitely changed my life. And basically everyone that I've shared it with, I know I've shared it with Chico, who's here with us today from the Cause and Effect podcast.
Yes. What's up?
And my wife has also led a bunch of episodes on the Enneagram series. Hello.
What's up, everybody?
And today is a very important one because we're going to be emphasizing on the type 1 personality on the Enneagram, which is a very important one because number one is my wife. So I got to understand this if I'm going to be able to relate to my wife in a more effective way. But I just feel that there's a lot of ones out there trying to figure their own lives out. And sometimes they get lost along the way, or they're extra hard on themselves, especially with the inner critic that I'm sure my wife will talk about a little bit in the future. But I want to start off by saying that the Enneagram, because I know that it's popular now, right? And a lot of people use it with the wrong motives, with the wrong intentions. And the Enneagram, as Susan Stabile says, the Enneagram should only be used to build others up and help them advance on their journey towards wholeness and God, period. Amen. And I love that quote, right? Because, again, if we're going to be, I don't want to say experts on the Enneagram, but if we're going to know it and we're going to seek knowledge on it, it's to help others and to help ourselves, not to manipulate others, not to control others, not to mess with people's heads so that they lean on you.
Or
right?
even exploit their weaknesses.
Which can be done as well. It's a scary thing. Like when I read about my type, I'm a type 7, right? The enthusiast, the adventurer. I'm always loud, always wanting to be the life of the party and things like that. And I see what I was on when I was unhealthy. I'm like, man, I was using the Enneagram. I didn't even know it, in an unhealthy way, right? And I know you had fun when you recorded your 4 episode.
That's one for the books.
I can't wait for that one. That one's actually dropping after this one. But the 4 episode was just really cool, and the insight that you was able to share with Sana, or with Roxy, let me call it Roxy, right, on YouTube. I wanna share 4 quick Bible verses that I feel create a foundation for the Enneagram. And the first one is Jeremiah 17:9. The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately sick. Who can understand it? And I think the Enneagram is the perfect tool that God has given us to be able to get to that understanding. Yeah. You know, another one is Lamentations 3:40. It says, let us test and examine our ways and return to the Lord. And I think when you read the Enneagram, again, it confronts you with you. Mm-hmm. And I love how Rhor says in his book on the Enneagram, he says if you don't feel bad about yourself after reading your type, that's not your type. That's not your number. Because it's going to confront you with you. Yeah. You know, the good, the bad, and the ugly.
And the ugly is, it sticks out a lot.
Yeah, because we tend, as human beings, we're going to gravitate towards the negative. Mm-hmm.
What are you talking about? And then, you know, when you look at the Enneagram, then you come from a background of horoscopes. The horoscopes tend to be more, I'm not gonna say sugar coated, but just feel good. Mm-hmm. Hey, you're gonna experience the best this and that, and when you read the Enneagram, it's like, oh yeah, until you see that part that you don't like or you don't agree with, or you really just stay away from, where even though you know it's true. Mm-hmm. You're just like, I'm just gonna skip over that. I think that's wrong.
Man, it's like a mirror that's been held up to your face, like, or to you. Like, when you look in the mirror, you're gonna see things that you like, and you're gonna see things that you don't like. I don't care who you are. That's just how it is. You're gonna see things that you want to change, things that you really like about yourself, things that you really don't like about yourself, and that's just how the Enneagram is.
And when I get into the 7, like I really begin to dislike myself. I think I battle sometimes when I read it. Like I begin to battle some of the things that I've done in the past, some of the people I've heard in the past, things that didn't need to be done, right? But I didn't have this resource, I didn't have this tool. So I mean, I'm thankful that I do now because I have the ability to be better. I have the ability to grow. I have the ability to be more focused. And I think that's kind of where we're headed with all this. Let's get right into this whole type 1. I want to share again, like we've done in all the episodes with the Enneagram, some of the basic features of the type, and then we'll get right into talking to you a little bit. Some of the famous 1 types in history include Mary Poppins, Hermione from Harry Potter, and Captain America. So when you think about these 3 figures, that's kind of what a 1 is. They're called the perfectionist, the reformer, the evaluator. Type 1s are consensuous, orderly, ethical, and can be extremely judgmental. You walk through life seeing the way things should be and always striving to do what is right, wanting to be responsible and improve everything around you. And that's from the book Becoming Us. How do you feel when you hear that, babe? When you hear you walk through life seeing the way things should be and always striving to do what is right, wanting to be responsible and improve everything around you.
I feel like that's pretty spot on. It's almost like hard to admit too, because I feel like when you say that description, you immediately think of a person that's like super like judgy and like, but I feel like sometimes I'm not. It's just the more like an inward kind of struggle where like if I see something that's not done right, then I'm like kind of breaking down on the inside, but I'm not gonna let you see it. So I'm not gonna like judge you outwardly, or I'm not gonna say something to you outwardly, but inside I'm like cringing. So I try to keep that like inside personality to myself, but I'm not gonna outwardly put you on the spot like, oh, you did that wrong, or like, why would you do it this way? Like that's just not me. I'm just gonna like observe it, notice it, internalize it, keep moving.
And a lot of these a lot of these things occur on the inside, like she said. Like you won't know it, right? And isn't that also something with the ones where you have this inner anger that's kind of like boiling underneath the surface?
What they call the deadly sin or the core weakness, some books refer to it as, it is anger, but anger in the form of resentment. It's resentment that something is not done right, or the world is not as right as it should be. There's a lot of corruption. So sort of that anger, that resentment for things not being the way they should be, sometimes can be like the weakness or that core weakness.
That's so good. That's so good. The core fear of a 1 type is being wrong, bad, or inappropriate. But their core desire is having integrity, being good, and being ethical. And your core longing, which I think is very important, type 1's core longing is you are good and you are enough. You are good and you are enough. Is that something that you seek?
Oh, all the time. Like even when we first started, dating, I remember telling you like, I want to feel like I am enough. Like everything I do is going to be enough for you, that I'm not lacking in an area or I'm not deficient somewhere, that everything I do will be enough. And I feel like that is transcends through all my relationships with my parents, my sister, friends, with family. Like I want to feel like what I do is enough to make you happy, to be, it's enough, that I'm good, that I'm not like a deceitful person. I'm not bad. I'm not trying to do something behind your back. I'm not trying to backstab you. I'm just trying to be good, and I want to be enough for you.
And I remember like when we were getting to know each other, when we were now officially dating and we were working our way towards marriage, I remember I would say what would get you pissed off the most was when that essence of goodness was kind of attacked or judged or questioned.
Yeah, that's definitely like a trigger for me. Like if you are attacking let's put quote unquote my goodness or my need to be good and honest and loyal and true. If you attack that and you say, oh no, that's not what you did, but that's really what I did, like, oh, forget it, that's gonna be a trigger. I'm gonna go nuts. I'm gonna try to defend myself. I'm gonna defend my position, like, and it's because like I want to be a good person and I want to be right. And if you're gonna attack that, that's you're attacking my entire essence.
That's crazy, right? And when we look at ourselves, right? When we look at ourselves, I mean, it's a good thing when you understand and you know your triggers, right? Because when you know your triggers, you know your propensity to kind of slip up in those situations. So you try to avoid those situations, right? But when it comes to humanity and relationships, we can control us. We can't control the other person, you know, but with the Enneagram, the blessing of the Enneagram, the wisdom of the Enneagram is that you're able to not only know yourself when you truly study it, but as you begin to relate to other types and other numbers and others or the other personality types, you're able to kind of give a little bit more leeway to them as well. Because you understand your struggle and your battle and your journey towards growth, you're able to kind of understand theirs as well. Do you feel that knowing your Enneagram type has helped you relate to others?
Oh yeah, for sure. But I remember when I first read my type, I felt like, wow, this is gonna be like, this is a manual that I can use, almost like a manual of me that I can use to explain to others how I am, or even relate to others and understand why am I relating to others this way, and not opposed to like how, you know, you relate to Jose, or how you relate to Chico, or how you relate to Rafi, or, you know, Jump Out. It's just, it's easier for me to have like the answers, the answers to who I am is right in front of me. So and I can easily now focus on bettering that relationship with that person.
You know what comes to my mind when you were talking about like that you guys might experience anger or resentment because of how the world is, and I think that being knowledgeable of the Enneagram also helps you realize why, you know, certain things in the world can be this way, because then when you start learning personalities, you understand that they won't function like you function. So it kind of gives you some type of like answers instead of just walking around with just some misguided questions. And
for example,
resentment.
I'll give you an example. Like when the whole Black Lives Matter movement came about last year, you know, for me, as I was reading through it, and as I was trying to understand it, and as we were talking, for me, it caused like anger and resentment. And it caused high anxiety to the point where I didn't want to sort of like get involved too much, or I didn't want to like feel what I was feeling. I didn't want to lash out too much. I wanted to like sort of go under a rock. And because for me, and this is before the Enneagram, but after I was reading the Enneagram, I said to myself, this is why I was feeling that way. It's because the world is so corrupt. There was so much like, you know, anger. There was so much things that were wrong in our society, in our government, and the way our culture was. There was so much wrong from so far back that I didn't know how to process it. I did not know how to navigate these feelings. I didn't know why I was feeling like I needed to hide under a rock and like isolate myself from what was going on, because for me, the world was so corrupt, and I was seeing it in vivid color right in my face, that I didn't know how to react to this. So that's when I realized, wow, the Enneagram is so helpful, because now I'm able to actually assess these feelings and understand, why is it that I'm feeling this way? It's not a matter of like, well, he's reacting to it differently and you had a different reaction. Why can't I be like you or you? It's this is who I am.
Yes.
And I can't be like you, because there are reasons behind that. And knowing those reasons is why I love the Enneagram so much.
And I love what she's sharing. Like, I wanted to be like you as sometimes, or I wanted to be like you, or I wanted to be a deeper thinker like Rafi, or I wanted to be, well, what's you came out as the 8, right? More assertive in my position. But the blessing of the Enneagram is that, like correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like you're saying you didn't judge yourself for what you were feeling, because now you were able to
understood why I was feeling the way I was feeling, which is different than why can't I be like someone else? I have to be me.
Yeah.
Yes.
But even that, like when you feel, now you know the reason why you feel something, you don't run away from that
Exactly.
feeling anymore. Because
Exactly.
when we get new information, if we don't know how to process that information, we tend to close that book and say, you know what?
Absolutely.
No, I'm not about to get into, because it's depressing me. It's making me feel this, it's making me feel that. But
Yes.
the Enneagram, when you understand who you are, you process it with that in mind.
With that information.
And then you're like, okay, let me put this feelings where they are. They exist and they're there, but I know that this is why. So cool, I'll face it on, and I know that things are gonna go accordingly.
Right.
So good.
It's not like I'm running away from something
Right.
that I'm just like, why am I doing this? Why am I feeling this way?
So good.
And
So
and
good.
and I see that clearly, because I can see that in myself. Like, I have those moments where I'll see the world for what I wish it would be. Like, we imagine what it should be instead of looking
always
at
looking for that
what's
missing
right or
piece.
wrong. We just feel like, yo, like we're kind of like daydreaming through life as fours. And when certain things aren't that, it can get you melancholy. Like, you can just be like, damn man, I wish this. And then that's where you start realizing that you might turn that into envy. And now when you know that you can go that route, you take that into a different perspective, and now you start
This
applying
guy.
it differently. Because that's
I
how
am
I've
so
been
proud of how you like breaking down the Enneagram 4 right
because
now.
it's making sense, especially hearing you guys. That's
It's
why I'm
so
paying
good.
close attention to some of the details, because I've been able to just like apply that in my mind, and now I know when I'm feeling a certain way, that I can be like, hey, if you're not aware, to somebody like Nicole, this is me right now. Like, this is where I'm at right now. Let me just break it down to you, and then
So
that person can to learn to either they can feel however they feel about how I'm acting right now, but at least they know. So
Exactly.
then once that emotion
Exactly.
subside, they can come and say, hey, I'm glad you share that with me, and I'll try to handle it differently next time. And just make things easier.
And it's helpful. Like, this is so
Yeah,
practical,
that's the
so
point. It's
helpful.
helpful.
For the religious community, one of the things that drives me bonkers, like angry, it gets me angry, where we want to cookie cut all Christians and all believers. We want them all to be the same, act the same, talk the same, walk the same, smell the same, sing the same, say amen at the same time. But that's not God's design. God designed us all different, right? There's a metaphor that the Apostle Paul uses in his writings, where he talks about the body of believers as being a human body. He said, he says the hand can't say to the foot, I don't need you. The foot can't say to the hand, I don't need you. The ear can't say to the eye, I don't need. Like, we all need one another. We all need our personalities. We need the 9 personality types, and then having the knowledge of this, right? Because at the end of the day, by the age of 7, our personality has been set. By our experience, our socioeconomic status, the things that are going on around us, like, our personality is set. And when it comes to a 1, and I want you to share with me some of this with me too, because I think this is the part that really hit you when you first read the Enneagram, when you was talking about the childhood.
Oh yeah.
And it says that for 1s, they criticize themselves as a child. They criticize themselves in anticipation of criticism from others. They refrain from doing things that might not come out perfect. They focus on living up to the expectations of their parents and teachers that are hard on themselves. Natural wishes were forbidden when young, so they learned to block out their desires by focusing attention on the thing that was right to do. Did you feel that way growing up?
Oh yeah, definitely. I was the kind of student, like, even when I was really little, I was the kind of student that, like, if I got a 98, I was mad, because I was like, I didn't get that 100, because it had to be perfect. I wanted to please my teacher. I wanted to please my parents. I wanted to go to them and be like, hey, I got first in class, which I did, but I got first in class in this exam, or I got, I was the best at this recreational. I just wanted to be the best at everything. And I think that came across sometimes as being overly competitive or being like a perfectionist, but I really just wanted to please teachers, please my parents, please like myself. Like, I just wanted to be the best. And I think that was really like when I first read the Enneagram and I saw the child part, I was like, oh man, that was my whole childhood. I just wanted to like be the best at everything, like the best daughter, the best sister, the best friend. I just wanted to be the best.
Best wife.
I'm still working on that.
It's funny because I hear her saying that sometimes, you know, and I've actually seen that where it maybe a meal doesn't come out as perfect or something, and she'll literally, like, you will beat yourself up over that, and I'm like, we're gonna eat again tomorrow, like, we good. But you can see her, you know, getting upset over things like that. And you know, for our audience, if you're in a relationship with one of the things that I've learned is that when you are going to share some sort of critique or criticism, you have to do it with a more gentle spirit, because ones tend to take it very, very hard.
Yeah, and I know we had discussed this before, but I do feel like for ones, there are two different reactions when we receive criticism. It'll be, you know, either receptive and I'm going to take that criticism and I'm going to use it, or it's going to go the other way and it's going to be like, oh man, my life is terrible, like I'm a horrible person, I'm so like I beat myself up for it. So it's going to be either two reactions, and it all depends on if I was working on it. Like if you're telling me, you know, oh, your rice was too sticky, and I've been working on this rice for like months, I'm going to take it hard because I'm trying my best every single time and it's still coming out sticky. But if it's like,
It's really good, by the way.
now it's not sticky. Thanks, Mom.
Let me just throw that out there.
But if it's something that like I've never done before, I've never made rice before, and it comes out sticky, and you're like, hey, maybe you should add a little bit of water. I'm like, oh, that's a good idea. Thanks.
And you look forward to the next time.
And I look forward to the next time. But if I've been working on this rice for months and you're telling me it's sticky, I've been working.
Can't figure this out.
I've been working on this for months. How can it possibly be still like sticky?
And then, like, for me, I would share certain things, but for me, it was such a light thing that it wasn't even critique. Like, for me, I was just sharing information. So again, in studying the Enneagram and having these conversations and learning about her and her learning about me, I was able to see that that the communication has to be different. It has to fit the style of the person you're communicating with. You know, and that was a blessing, you know, but there's so much to talk about when it comes to being a one or being our own, you know, a 4 or a 7 in my circumstance. But I want to know, because we're talking about a 1, what do you like the most about being a 1?
I think what I like the most is the attention to detail. Like, I love being able to, I guess, like, detect those little things in people, and like, you know, their mannerisms or the things that they said or the things that they've, I don't know, whatever. That little attention to detail, I do enjoy that, because I can go back and like, oh, that's going to make them, you know, happy if I mention it later on or something like that.
That's so good.
Like if you're talking about, I don't know, something and I remember it, I'm going to enjoy it because I'm going to put it in my pocket and then bring it out later and surprise you with it.
and it's, you know, how many of you would agree? Like, we need 1s in our lives. We need type 1s in our lives. Perfectionists, reformers, people that take something that's good, like a 4's idea that exists all in here, but they're able to help you create it, right? Because it becomes more orderly. And now let's put, like in my situation as a 7, like I have all these random ideas and I could talk about this. But because I'm married to Anna, she'll be able to channel that in.
Oh yeah, I love organizing. Like, okay, you have this broad idea. Let's break it down to like step by step by step by step by step, and try to funnel it into like one main idea.
And then we help each other out in that way, you know. And as we have studied in the past, Enneagram numbers or types have what's called arrows in the Enneagram. These are the paths of integration, or when you're growing, when you're in a moment of security, you're in a good place, good vibes, everything's positive, and you're growing. You grow towards one direction, and in paths of disintegration, or when you're in stress, when you're stressing out, you go in another direction. So I think it's really, really good that both of us are here, because both of our numbers are her paths of growth and stress. You stress her out, I help her grow. Not personally, but personality
personality.
type wise, which
Yeah,
which is.
yeah, yeah.
I
and
like that.
you grow towards a 1.
Yes.
A 2.
No.
A 1?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you go towards a 2 is a bad thing for you.
I would like to know why.
But that would do for the 4-2 episode.
Yeah.
But now that you're married to me, right, and you find out I'm a 7, and we start studying the Enneagram, how do you see that in in our personal lives? Like, how do you see that practically?
I think it was funny for me because you're a 7, and that was my growth type, and I feel like a part of me was attracted to you, like way back before the Enneagram, before we were dating, because you were like that thing I needed.
How was that thing?
You know, no, but not a thing. Like you were a thing, but like you had those traits that I longed for. You know, like that spontaneity, that carefree, that like life of the party. Like I was attracted to that, and in looking back at the Enneagram now, it's like that's
Makes sense why.
It makes sense why I was so like I mean, other things, of course, I was gravitated to, but that's a part of it. And I
See how
think
she's trying to correct herself to give the perfect answer? Like we're seeing
She's
it
like-
on video.
Like, let me make sure he knows that it's everything, not just
yeah,
that.
exactly. Because then I don't.
See, but you see it at work, right?
Yeah.
You know, with me, I'm more spontaneous and let's have fun and let's enjoy life. You know, so her gravitating towards that
Because
helps
she's
her.
already always
I'm
putting a lot
already
on herself.
Yes, I'm putting a lot
So
on
you
myself.
give her permission to be like, you know what? Take all that weight off your shoulder and just relax.
Bro, yes, because I
Sure.
tend to take on so much, and I'm already like my plate's already full, and I'm like, well, what else you got? I'll do.
And like
I'll
you
deal
said,
with
you
it.
internalize that.
Yeah,
So it's like,
so nobody's
who would
gonna
know?
Nobody's gonna know. I'm gonna make it look like I got it.
Yeah.
Well,
And
let's
then in
pick
a
up
relationship, resentment will be building and we don't even know why.
Right.
You know, but now that we have this knowledge,
Now you're like, dang.
the
what did I do
detectors
that
are
can
up, the
annoy?
antennas are up.
What's the unhealthy thing that's going on right
Yes.
now that's making her react to this like that?
Now your negative arrow or your stress arrow or the path of disintegration is a 4.
Yeah.
So how have you seen that play
And
out?
you grew up
With a 4.
with a
And
four.
with a
I can see, real quick, when I was looking through my book bag and I remembered that ones are like perfectionists, I was like, if Anna was to go through this book bag right now, all these wires are untangled and stuff. She would be so stressed right now. Like,
But
why
them
aren't
for you.
these things
But you won't see
wrapped
it.
correct?
You won't see it inside. I'll be like, oh my god, I'm gonna take that book bag and I'm gonna
fix all these wires
and I'm gonna come in like a little elf and fix it and then
organize
leave.
it.
That's so
No,
funny.
but with a 4, you know, I do tend to get moody and irritable and like into my feelings, and then like kind of like everything is just
It's a chaotic
yeah,
situation.
it's very chaotic, and I don't know how to, these hormones and these moods and these violent like mood swings come over me, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm like. I just want to be left alone. So I go into this like isolation mode, and I go into this like irritable mode. And sometimes he's like, "What's wrong? What's wrong?" And I'm like, "I don't know. I just,
I'm just annoyed right
and
now.
I gotta
Yeah.
figure that out.
I'm just."
I gotta interpret that.
All right.
But then I know, like, all right, I'm getting into that moodiness that the 4s, you know, can be, and so I can already like catch myself, like, okay, do I sound like Sana?
That's
Does it
crazy
sound
though,
like
right?
her?
Like when you think about the blessing of humanity, the blessing of having people around us, people that surround us, and then you add this knowledge to it. Like we've had conversations where you can already see how the 5, which is Rafi, helps the podcast, how a 6, which is Fernando, helps a podcast. I'm a 7, jump out is an 8. You have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
All of us are different, but when you put that mixture together, it becomes something special. Right. And that's what life should be. Life should be us being our genuine selves and God using that genuine self that he created us to be to help one another. Like what Anna was saying, I love it when she says, you know, when I sound like my sister, I know I'm heading towards a negative place. It's not that she's negative. It works for her because that's her type.
Natural. Exactly.
But it doesn't work for her because it's not her natural type. Like for me, my area of growth is towards Rafi's number of 5. Why? Because a 7 is always on the move, on the move, on the move, on the move. A 5 is more contemplative. They're more still. They want to get deep into things. They don't like jumping from subject to subject to subject like I do.
That's why when we have the podcast, we'll go through some deep things real quick, and then we go to another one. Rafi's like, "Wait, let's bring that back real quick."
But that's a 5. That's his nature, and it's a blessing to have that because it'll allow the deep roots of something to be shared and expressed, right? But then my negative area of my stress number is a 1.
Because now you feel like you're being restricted and like you gotta walk on eggshells. Cause
if I feel like I'm getting to that place where I'm critical, I'm hypercritical, I'm hyper judgmental, I'm hyper, I'm not flowing. It's more I'm pulling myself, I'm pushing myself. I'm like, another day. I gotta go do a podcast. Like if I'm there, I'm getting to a stress place, and I know it immediately because I'll think, Dag, I'm being like my wife when she's stressed. So I know that I'm in a bad place. That's like a red flag for me. It's time to get out of there. It's time to get out of there. And so again, humanity helps one another. The Enneagram is a blessing because it helps you relate to people in a more positive light.
And on the other hand, I can also spot it with him. Like if he's into that space of negativity or self-critical or self-judgmental, I'm like, hey, you got to get out of there. Like that is not a good spot for you. But being able to be aware of that and be able to help him, hey, you got to get out of that, or like throw some encouraging words for him, help him out. Let's get some structure. Let's get out of that funk. Like that's pretty much what the Enneagram will help you do in relationships.
So good.
That's how you relate to others. That's like being aware of that. Same thing with the 4 and like with Sana. I can be aware when she's already growing into like
AKA Roxy.
Yeah, she's on the Enneagram Type 4. But I even with her, like I can relate to her differently now. I mean, we had a good relationship before, but now it's even better because I understand like why she does the things that she does, or why she says the things that she says, why her feelings are that way. I can relate to her because I'm there when I'm moody. We can't both be moody. We gotta like
one helps each other.
Exactly.
One compliments each other. That's good.
So it's like you begin seeing why it has, anyone that has studied the Enneagram, if you go check it out on the internet, you're gonna see this diagram that has all these lines going in different directions and looks like a retarded looking clock. Right, but crazy. when you dig into it, like Chico's just been reading it for like a few months, I would say, and he's already becoming fluid language. So that means that his mind is already embracing the concepts. And what'll happen is, once you know yours, and I'm sure it's 4 and 2. That's where you're focused right now because that's where it should be focused. But once you have that, you'll see yourself begin branching out to the other numbers. And it'll help you relate to them in such an effective way because it takes the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
You don't have to guess, I wonder what this person would like or blah. No, you know. You know. And I think this is what scares a lot of religious people because unfortunately a lot of religions are built on manipulation, are built on control.
Trying to create like mystery and some things where there's
or even try to create
straightforward.
Create cookie cutter people.
Yeah.
Like, but you really can't. I can easily tell him, hey, I don't like how you criticize me because of this, and this. Now we've opened up this communication and we're able to communicate with each other effectively. We're able to argue effectively, and it causes our marriage to be effective.
That's so good. That's so good. One of the things that the type 1s have that none of the other types have, and is very, very loud, is something that is called in Enneagram circles, the inner critic.
Hey, Angie, that's my girl.
Nah, that's her inner critic. Now, what I want you to do is share with the audience how the inner critic's voice is different from the voice of the Holy Spirit.
Now, when I first read about the inner critic and like only the type 1s, I was like, I thought everybody had one. That's not what it is. I was like, oh, wow, okay. So I'm the only one. I feel special. But it's not really like a special person. I kind of give her the name Angie, just so I could, draw, a line. Like, that's not me. that's just an inner critic.
And I even do it. If I see she's going in a more negative space, I'll be like, babe, is that you or is that Angie? Do I not?
It's not like,
Like, wait.
it's not like a split personality
Yeah,
disorder
yeah.
type thing, but it is an inner critic, and I've had to learn that that inner critic is not an asset to my life. It's just there to criticize. And if I don't need that criticism, then I don't have any business listening to that inner critic. So it's different from like the voice of the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is not going to criticize me ever. It's not going to downplay me. It's not going to tell me you did this wrong because of this. Like that's just not what God is. So when I've learned to like draw that line, like, hey, that's Angie, yeah, that's not me, I can easily tackle it instead of like stewing in this critic and feeling bad for myself, or like criticizing myself, or listening to it and now like feeding into this inner critic. I don't have to do that for more than 0.3 seconds, because now I can attach a name to it. Like, hey, that's not even the Holy Spirit. That's just an inner critic. It has nothing to do with me right now.
That's
So
good.
that, I feel like for me, that was big, because there have been so many times where I sat there and I criticized myself and I listened to this voice for so long, and it once I read the Enneagram and what it really was, I even allowed myself to think the Holy Spirit is not that's not what it is. Like I can let the Holy Spirit now come in and change this narrative of, hey, you're being this and this, and now it's like you're loved by God. God is not gonna judge you. God is not gonna criticize you that way. God is not gonna downplay your life that way. So it even allowed for a better communication with God. And that's the result of the Enneagram. Like, it allowed me to have a better understanding of who God is, instead of that man that sits there with a rod and like is gonna try to punish you. It changed that whole narrative for me, and it made me just appreciate who God was even more.
That's so good. That's so good. And I love, again, I love how just a little bit of knowledge makes such a huge difference. You know what I mean? It makes such a huge difference. Now, because we have Chico here, I want you to share with him what the ways that a 4, right? Because the 4 level of growth is in the direction of a 1. So what are, with the information that you've read, what are some of the things that he can see in a 1 that'll help his 4ness?
I think structure, because I feel like with 4s,
Full structure everywhere. I need a routine, and not so much a routine, but yeah, a structure.
yeah.
What to have like a checklist for, and make sure that things are going accordingly.
Yeah, I think that for like, especially I've seen it with Sana. When she is structured, she is a much better person, and it doesn't have to be like a strict structure. She calls it wiggle room. There could be wiggle room within your structure, in your day, in your list. You don't have to get every single thing marked off. You could leave room for error. But I think for me, like when I've seen her the best is when she has structure. When there's a time for this and a time for that, and she has a list and she could sort of stick to that. That's when she's at her best, and her creativity just flows even better.
The most effective I've seen myself, because I've been doing, and I've been restarting here and there, like doing something like 75 hard, and knowing when I have to reset because I missed something. It's not like, for Nicole, it's like the end of the world. For me, it's more like, yeah, but I did a lot. Like normally I'm so unorganized that
Right.
my head is everywhere, that I just don't do anything. I sit down and say, what should I do first? But knowing that I've been able to pull off a lot on a good time, and by the end of the night, I know that I did everything and might have missed one thing, it's still satisfying for me.
Yeah.
It's very satisfying for me. I mean, I wasn't like you. I wasn't like Anna would be like, I need to get an A. I was always like, yo, if I pass with a D, I am Gucci. Like, as long as I don't have to repeat this class ever again, give me a D right now, pause, and let me go.
You're terrible.
Like inside, I'm like, oh my god, imagine a D.
Yo, but I'm over here like, yo, it's hey, eso es pasando rayando, así mismo. Ahí mismo.
It's great. Again, we see these things from our early childhood working its way into our adulthood. Now, the sad thing is the adult that's still thinking like a child.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you can bring all these habits, these formation, these mindsets from your childhood into your adulthood. But when you don't want to grow up and you want to keep making, like I see people all the time just making the same mistakes. Like I was talking to my wife on the way here and I'm like, it's gotten to the point that social media, I get on and I'm like, ugh.
I think there's a lot more.
It's the same nonsense.
That, you know that? I think that's why you have the popularity of, I think we were early on to it, even when we were talking about detoxing from social media, right? Because we like I said, everything has a cause and effect, and everything has those things that eventually you're gonna see the good and the bad, and it's like it takes time, and I think that we're gonna get to a point where we're like, man, real life is great. Like real life is amazing,
yes.
Right? And the people that know how to turn on and off Instagram or any type of social media platform are going to be thriving in life. Like being able to just say, I don't need that today. It's gonna give people so much power.
It's so good.
And it's gonna still work like that. It's a work in progress because there's a lot of people that feel like if they don't have a big presence on social media, they're failing in life, right? So there's still people like any of us like still chasing some type of status on here. So I think that we're gonna see a lot more people having that same concern, like well,
and there's so much to life that we miss. There's so much to life that we miss by not being intentional about our growth, right? And I think what the Enneagram helps with is giving you parameters to be more intentional with your growth, right? Like when an 8, gets going, and he's like an 8 grows towards a 2, right? So you're assertive and you have that boss mindset mentality. If your way towards growing is being more servant, being more helpful to people, because that balances out that assertion. For a 5, you want to stay away from me because you're going to be monkey mind all over the place and you're going to drive yourself crazy because you're not wired that way. But with a 1, which is what we've been discussing, and hopefully our audience gets this, because there's husbands out there that are married to a 1 and they're wondering why they can't seem to get it right. Why everything falls so hard? Why she takes everything so personal? But it's because that inner critic is going, that resentment from 5 years ago, 6 years ago is going, and now your little things saying it was cold, the food was cold, or whatever the case might be. So you add all that into that mixture, it's gonna be a soup that you don't want to eat. So we see these things and we're sharing these things and we're putting them on YouTube and we're giving you this list of books that you can read and the Enneagram link that you can go find out what your personality type is. But it is a journey, right? It is a journey of self-discovery. It is a journey of, like, you can go through some dark, wet caves that stink and you don't like what's in there. But if you keep going and you keep you stick to your journey, you stick to your path, you're going to come out on the other side where there's this beautiful waterfall with colors you've never seen, refreshing yourself like you've never been refreshed. But you have to be willing to keep going. And, I'm very, very proud of you because I know that you've been really committed to this and really committed to growth and really committed to being an even better version of yourself. And I get the blessing of enjoying that better version. So that's always a double blessing. But I know it's been hard for you, right? Like, what would you say would be the hardest thing on this Enneagram journey that you've had to battle through?
I think one of the hardest things was not wanting to be that type. Because I felt like nobody wants to be friends with a type 1. It's not an attractive type. I guess that's what it is. That was a hard thing because I felt like it's not even like cool to be a type 1. It's whatever. But I think also the in one of the books I read, I think it's called The Road Back to You. One of the spirit, they call it the spiritual transformations or things, or how to grow in your one, was to pick up a hobby, even if you don't stick with it for a long time. Just pick up a hobby. That way it opens up a little bit of creativity. And I feel like for ones, it's hard to do that, to pick up a hobby, because you want to be so perfect at it the first try. Like, my husband bought me a guitar as a wedding gift, and because I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. And so I picked up the guitar, and I'm like, I'll 2 weeks, I'll write you a song, like, and I'll be playing at a coffee shop or something. It's been more than 2 weeks, and I still can't get my hands, like those muscles in your hands, to actually wrap around the guitar and to play tunes. And I'm still learning the chords, and I'm still learning how to use this guitar. And it's frustrating because I'm like, I should already be good at this.
I should play a song already.
I should already be writing my songs and writing. So it's frustrating. So I've had to learn to, like, okay, take a step back and just enjoy this process. Even if you're not perfect at it, even if you may never write a song and you'll just know a bunch of chords, but like, be okay with not being perfect at it. Same thing with photography. I've been wanting to shoot, portraits of families and stuff, and there's so much to learn about photography. You have all these cameras here, and there's just so much to learn about. I don't know how to fix lighting still, and it's like drives me crazy. But those little things, like sticking to hobbies, even though you're not perfect at it, I feel like it has really helped me just to be okay with not everything being perfect.
That's the beauty
So
of
good.
creativity.
Because the world,
you have to have
yeah.
some imperfections in it, because that's what makes it creative. That's what makes it art sometimes. Right? There's art that you're like, did he mean to do that, or was that like by mistake? And that sometimes it's the art itself, because getting that reaction from somebody is maybe what the artist wanted, right? So there's so many ways where art doesn't have to be completely like in the lines.
And that's what it helps me understand, that it doesn't have to be so black and white. It could
had
be
coloring books growing up a lot.
Oh, there was.
I was gonna say, I couldn't imagine how perfect those.
And don't go into my coloring book and start making your own pages. Like, you gotta leave my coloring book alone. It's a masterpiece of perfect lines.
Bro, like, to mess with her when she's writing her notes, I like put a line through it.
And I'm like, I gotta start over.
Oh my God! If you look at my notebook, you'll have a heart attack.
Yeah, probably.
I have like, there's times that I'll just like have new notes, and I'll write on old notes that have nothing to do with the new notes, and I'm just like, I just need the paper space.
But that's the fourness, right? when you read about the type 4, you read about the type 1, and you read about the type 7, you can see in your notes your type. Like it's that precise.
I got an Apple Pencil, and I'm like, forget it. I'm the queen of organization.
Oh, it looks so dope, though. It's so cool. Her notes are so cool.
And then your note is more accurate when it comes to like even writing and drawing. Like you see the lines very perfect, not squiggly or anything like that.
The topics are highlighted in a certain color. Bullet points are in a certain ink. It's stuff like that.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
I wanted to ask, how does one perceive, like, move in social media? Like, how does it affect you? Does it, like, when you're on there, like, does, like, seeing other people, how maybe, like, is not judgmental, but like of trying to figure out all this information and everything like that, does it affect you negatively, or you just observe more?
If it's a negative effect, but it does. I do not go on social media that often for that same exact reason. It goes back to the whole, like, the example that I gave earlier in the episode about Black Lives Matter. If I see something,
you see a bunch of things that you wish we're supposed to be
different, or maybe like
shouldn't be this way, or I don't know. Sometimes it's just I don't want to get too involved in other people's lives, because what if I start getting too critical, or what if I start getting too judgy? I'd rather not. Yeah.
So I go on there to, like, if my sister sends me something, she'll text me, "Hey, I sent you a video. It's so funny."
So you know when to go on.
So I know. When to go.
Okay. Because I was wondering, like, if social media, like, for some people, they see, like, all these news topics and politics mixed into. It's not just about taking pictures of your food anymore, right? Like, we're past that, you know. So
and then with the algorithms and
we
everything,
do.
now they start feeding that.
Yeah, no. And I get a lot of news because that's pretty much what I like to read. I like to read my news, so I get a lot of news, and I'm like, oh, if this is
overwhelming,
if this is overwhelming or this is getting too much, I'm gonna isolate.
Okay.
I'm gonna turn it off, and I'm gonna go into my little bubble because now I see the world as being distorted and not so black and white, and this is good and this is bad, and now it's what people have opinions. I don't know. It's gray matter now. So I don't know what to do with this gray area. So I just I kind of go into like a little isolation mode.
Okay. So would you say, and that was a great question because it leads to this, would you guys say understanding your personality type becomes the filter through which you either consume or don't consume things like social media?
Oh yeah,
absolutely,
100%.
Now I know why I enjoy music so much. Now I know because it gives me a feeling. It creates certain feelings that make me feel alive. You know, it makes me like music just connects in a different way for me, and I've always felt like I wonder if everybody else like feels about music the same way like this, and or other things within that category that can make me feel the way that I'm talking about, which is hard to explain, but it's just like I understand.
That's so good.
You know why I'm watching this, or I'm interested in this,
or why I feel like this when I'm listening to music.
But it also helps me because, like, just like you, like having that place where you can get into unhealthy mode, and now you're like envying somebody else's life, and not in a way where you like wish them bad. It's more of like, I want that too. Yeah. And when you start noticing that, you're like, that's just the unhealthy. That you got to get out of that. You gotta look at, you know, I have all this over here, like I'm good, right? And then you have to start kind of like consuming less of whatever is making you feel that way. So that's helped me in that, because
for me it's just looking at it in a different perspective. If I looked at social media as a creative outlet through those lens,
it inspires.
Now that could be a different. If I take it up as like not like a hobby, but like a creative interest, now it becomes a little bit different than the view I had before of just black and white.
Gotcha.
That's so good. That's so. Again,
how about for you?
For me, I'm a 7, so I'm good at jumping from thing to thing to thing. So I'm just
you'll be in a conspiracy theory.
I go to Black Lives Matter, then I go to what's going on with with Chinese people and the attacks there. I go into the Jews and Palestine and what's going on up there, and then I go into Bible and the church's nonsense sometimes and how they like, retard it, and the politics. Then you got sports. You put that. So my my social media.
It's a party.
It is.
It's crazy, but it's like that's why, again, knowing growth and having people around you, like we set our social media accounts. We got 1 hour of social media per day. That's it.
Okay.
Once that hour's finished, that's it. So if I wasted it on whatever forum I was into that day, that's what happened, right? So one of the things that I think you guys just shared was the boundaries. Right, knowing your Enneagram type has it helped you guys create boundaries?
Yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like even boundaries in like we've talked before. This phrase or this saying, many roads lead to Rome. So back in when Rome was built, it was built in the middle, and they had all these paths that would lead to Rome, to the epicenter of what that civilization was. So you could be coming from the west and there's a road that leads to Rome. You could be coming from the east. There's going to be a road that leads to Rome. So that concept that I've had to digest, and I've had to really like embrace that concept, that it's not just my way that's going to be the right way. You can have a different way, and we're still going to get to the same center, the same goal. It's just going to look different.
So good.
But I have to be okay with that. I have to set like sort of like that boundary, like, okay, Anna, just because you want to do it this way doesn't mean everybody has to do it this way. And it doesn't matter. You're not going to like fall apart. You're not going to combust because he did it his way and we still got the same answer. It's like 3 + 1 is 4, but also 2 + 2 is 4. Why can't we use that one?
Example. Yeah.
You know, like, so that's, I've had to like really embrace that. And for me, it's been so helpful. Like I know I'm different. I know I'm better. I know there's a better version of me because I can understand that. I can relate to people even better.
That's so good. And how about you, Chico? Have you been able to create borders based on the information that you received from the Enneagram?
Yes. I just say that it's more of awareness for me. Like, yes, I'm going to still react certain ways because there's definitely things that's always a process, but knowing that during the process I'm grabbing the right tools now. Exactly. It's like all I could think about is like me in the operating table and the surgeon saying, pass me this, and I'm like, what is that? What? And now that I know that about myself, I know what I'm picking up to assess whatever situation I'm going through, right?
That's
or communicate. You know, if I know that I'm, you know, there's times where I'll be driving and I'm in that mode where I just want to listen to music and feel whatever and chill, and maybe Nicole wants to talk and I'm just like not receiving it, and she starts noticing that, she's able to also kind of like back off a little bit, but stay aware. There, right? Yeah. And just, all right, I guess we're just vibing out, puts the music up high, and then later on I'm putting the music down to talk, right? And now she's like, oh, now you're like, but either that's something that maybe bother her, but again, awareness, you're at least able to say, you know what, this is just something to process and we'll both get better at, you know. But now we know where to start from, because when you don't know where to start from, you're just picking at whatever it could be the problem, and maybe you're picking at something that's not a problem, and it's just that you're frustrated because you don't know where any resentment or things are coming up. And that's just on a relationship level. Like, then you go into your finances and you go into your own personal health and you start dissecting it. You realize that it's a process. You're going to build on that, but now you know what tools to grab to start helping build yourself up to the healthy level that you should be. I look at everybody like everybody's like at a, you know, 100% is like the healthiest, right? I feel like everybody's in different numbers, and we don't know what percent of health we're in with whatever number we have. So when people start discovering their number in their Enneagram, they're able to like open up that little vault and say, all right, your healthy level is at 5%. You need better. You're in a toxic level, right? Like, you got to get out of that. And that's where people start self-analyzing and building those boundaries that I'm building still within like myself and the things that I go through on a daily basis.
That's
so
amazing.
Good. That's so good. And I love the fact that, you know, God is there every single step of the way to help us, to guide us, to give us the answers, because I feel like he's the one that led us to this Enneagram stuff. Like, he's the one that's guided us here. And you know, he says he's the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. So God doesn't pick you up to leave you halfway. He's going to carry you to the end. You know, so for those that are hearing these programs, next week we're going to be doing the 2 episode with Nicole and Chantel. So that's gonna be an amazing episode. Soon we're gonna be launching the 3 type and the 4s and the 5 and the 6 and the 7, and it's gonna be a long season, y'all. Ooh, you're not gonna want to miss it. You can still hear me though, right? You're not gonna want to miss it. That's a 7 thing. You're not gonna want to miss any of these episodes. You're gonna want to continue growing and learning and setting boundaries and helping yourself ultimately, you know, with God's help, helping yourself to be the better version of you so that you can also relate to others.
Where can they get the test if they haven't?
We're going to have the link in the descriptions. We every single episode, we're going to have the link of the Enneagram where you can go, you can link. It's free. If you want to get the deeper report, I believe it's...
Yeah, we'll put the coupon code.
And it's...
For like a discount, like a $10 discount.
It's like for $10 and you could change your life. Like, it's literally that simple. But we're also going to have links to all the Amazon books that you can purchase. Links to different people possibly on YouTube that you can check out. Because our goal is not for you to just, we're BYOBers and that's our show. Like, we want you to be blessed. We want you to grow. We want you to prosper. And if that means connecting you to different resources, then that's just what we're gonna do, right? But to end this episode, I want you to tell all the ones out there why there's hope.
I firmly believe that God is all 9 numbers. I think he's 1 through 9. I don't think he's a specific. You can't categorize God in one specific number. And I think if you are a type 1 or any other type that you are, you can go to God for help. You can go to God for advice. The word says that, he can instruct your ways. And I feel like if God is a 1, he already knows who I am. I was created in his image. So he's got to be a 1 too. He's got to understand what an inner critic is. He's got to understand what it means to have, these perfectionist ideals. And he's got to understand what it means to be moody. He's got to understand what it means to be generous or detail-oriented or so structured. He's got to understand all this stuff because I was created in his image. So I can go to him freely. I can go and access him too. Like what Chico was saying about having the tools. That's a major tool right there that I can use, and he understands. He understands more than anybody else. He'll understand more than any book that I read. He'll understand more than any other conversation that you can have about the Enneagram. He'll understand. So I think having that tool is amazing.
Thank you so much. Very eloquently said. For our audience out there, thank you for being with us. Thank you for tuning in. There's a way that you can help us. Tell someone about this channel. Tell someone how this has blessed you. That's number 1. Number 2, if this particular episode helped you and it blessed you and you're like, man, I'm a 1 and this thing really hit home, let us know on the comments. Those little reviews, those little comments, those little shares, all of that helps us to help others. So we thank you guys in advance. Be blessed. Let's go.
Ba-dum, bam, bam, bam.
Ooh, that was so good.